Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taramina, blogger around the OAA, the host of Last Week Brain Cells, host Queen Taramina on Orion television. Also, like to welcome those watching on Local Voice on SoundCloud and those watching on Orion television. Also, this is the 2025 Fantasy Football Champion. So this week we're going to talk. We have a lot to talk about here this week, and I think this is gonna. And we last week we talked the boys. This week we're going to talk the girls, and this is going to be an interesting story because, like, you look at, of course, the matchups were released on Sunday, so we're going to break down these matchups. So it's going to be, of course, we have the boys matchups. They're up. They're pretty much set. They're on the blog. They're also on the website at aroundtheoa at webley.com. Also on the blog at Saginaw4650 at blogspot.com. So a lot to talk about here. Previewing the girls. The matchups were released, and it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. So let's introduce our first district here. This one here is District 60. This will be over at Birmingham Detroit Country Day. We're gonna go. We go Division 2 first, then we go Division 1. Now, why I didn't say District 62 is that's where the District Pontiac was supposed to be, but Pontiac forfeited their season, forfeited their district chance, so they're no longer in the postseason. That is now a 14 district over there. Either way, I think it's either going to be Warren Regina or Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, who is the favorite in that district. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, that district will be played on Wednesday. That'll be for sure. But District 60, we have Ferndale. I mean, we're going to start off with the 6th seed, the Ferndale Eagles. They take on Centerline. That winner takes on Madison Knights Lampier, who's the 2 seed. And the other side, you have Ferndale University, who's the 5 seed, taking on the 4 seed Hazel Park. That winner is going to take on Birmingham Detroit Country Day. So you kind of think about the way that this district has been pretty much shaped up. This district looks like it's Birmingham Detroit Country Days to lose. And the reason why I say that is because Detroit Country Day, is loaded. They got a very good player in Sierra Rocco. They are loaded. They're well coached. They're disciplined. They played a tough schedule. They played a really tough schedule. So you look at the chances that either Ferndale University or Hazel Park can beat them. I don't think, in my opinion, that neither team has a shot against Detroit Country Day. Ferndale University's had a nice season. They've had a really good season. They're a veteran team. But they've had a nice season, their coach, Brian Pickett. They've had a nice season. Hazel Park, they're a solid group. They've been solid. But either way, I think that game is a toss-up. But that winner's going to have to play Birmingham Detroit Country Day in the district semifinals. That's going to be extremely difficult. And then on the other side, you have Ferndale taking on Centerline. Now, Ferndale, with them, they were winless this year. They're winless right now. They played some games, but they just forfeited Rochester Adams just recently. So there's some concerns there. I've had concerns with Ferndale all season long, considering what's been going on with them. So you think about with them is Ferndale, they got a tough match with Centerline. Centerline's had a good year. I mean, they've had some chances. They've had some tough luck lately. I mean, Madison Heights Lampier, they got hot. I mean, like, the Rams turned things around real quick to get the number 2 seed. So they got that 2 seed, which sets up a very interesting matchup. do I see both Ferndale and Ferndale? I see Ferndale U having a shot against Hazel Park. I don't think Ferndale's got a chance against Centerline. I just don't see it. There's just too many questions with Ferndale. There's just too many questions. Ferndale U, I see a chance there. But when I look at this district, do I think anybody here can knock off Birmingham Detroit Country Day? I don't see it. I honestly just don't see it. And I think a lot of that is because Country Day's got the athletes. They're loaded. And I think next year they're going to be heading into the Catholic League, which I think that'll help them a lot. I think for them going to the Catholic League, you put them with Jackson Lumen Christi, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, Birmingham Marion. I mean, it's going to be an interesting dynamic for sure, especially with the Catholic League next year adding in a Birmingham Detroit Country Day. So we'll see what happens, but that's going to be an interesting district to say the least over there at Birmingham Detroit Country. I don't think anybody's touching them. They're the host school. They're hosting the district. It's going to be a challenge for whoever has to go against them in that district. So it'll be a challenge. That'll be for sure. District 59, this will be at East Point. Speaking of that, the host school is the 5 seed. They're taking on Warren Lincoln. That one is taking on Harperwood Chandler Park Academy. And then you have in the other side of the bracket, the district semifinal matchup between St. Clair Shores South Lake and Harper Woods. So you look at this district, it's not as strong of a district as it's been in recent past years. You look at this is shaping up to be Harper Woods versus Harper Woods Chandler Park Academy in the district final. It's really shaping up to be that. Now, can somebody upset either one of the Harper Woods? Absolutely they can. I mean, they can absolutely do it. You look at, of course, Chandler Park. Chandler Park Academy, they're not bad. I mean, the Eagles are not a bad team. I'll be curious to see whoever has to play them. East Point having home court, but they've had a miserable year this year. Then you look at Warren Lincoln. Same thing. Same thing. So that'll be a very interesting first round matchup. The winner getting Harperwood Chandler Park Academy. Then you look at St. Clair Shores, South Lake, and Harper Woods. Coach Lanaya Tate's done a really nice job. Coach Latoya Tate's done a really nice job with the Pioneers. She's done a really nice job. They built 3 programs over there. They got a freshman program. So that helps with program strength there. The question is, can they sustain that program strength? Can they have those 3 programs? If they can, then I see a lot of upside for Harper Woods. The problem here is, for Harper Woods, is St. Clair Shores South Lake's a very dangerous team. A very dangerous team. So you kind of think about how this is going to shape up. Is you have to look at the matchup. The matchup is very interesting. It is very interesting because the team that could prevent this from happening could be Harper Woods final, could be St. Clair Shores South Lake. But they have struggled. What helps the Cavs is being in the MAC. So that's what helps them. Warren Lincoln's also in the MAC, so is East Point. But I think they're in a higher division. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Really interesting to see how this goes. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. So that's my take on the D2 districts. So when I look at the D2 districts with Ferndale U, Ferndale, and Hazel and Harper Woods, Harper Woods might have the best chance to move to the next round here. I think Harper Woods has a chance to win their district. Their task is going to be can they get by Harper Woods, Chandler Park? That's going to be the challenge. So that's going to be the most interesting side of things. So we'll see what happens there. We're going to see. Then let's go to District 22. This will be over at Livonia Stevenson. Farmington is the 5 seed. They're having a nice year in the gold division this year. They're going to take on the 4 seed Redford Thurston. That winner takes on the host school, Livonia Stevenson and Coach Allison Heidi. And then on the other side, you have Livonia Franklin, who's the 3 seed, taking on the 2 seed Farmington Hills Mercy. So the storyline here is, are we heading on a collision course between Livonia Stevenson and Farmington Hills Mercy? I mean, we know how well coached both teams are. And we know. So when I look at for Farmington and their scenario here, I just don't know if I see them beating Redford Thurston. But you never know. You never know. That could be very interesting. Because Livonia Stevenson, you know, they're a very good team. They've had a really nice year under Coach Allison Heidi. Heidi's done a really nice job turning that program around and turning it into a perennial power. That says a lot. But the last few years, Heidi has not been able to overcome Farmington Hills Mercy. Now, Farmington Hills Mercy, they're a Catholic League power. There is no doubt about that. And I forgot to mention Mercy with Birmingham Detroit Country Day, because that's another team that could do some damage in the Catholic League. You know, I mentioned Birmingham Marion, mentioned Jackson Lumen Christie. You know, they got the Toledo schools there. I mean, there is so much, the Catholic League. It's a tough league. It's a difficult league. But, you look at this case here between Livonia Stevens and Farmington Hills Mercy. It could very well happen. It's going to be an actual road game for the Marlins to taking on the Spartans. Now, for Livonia Stevenson's case, I don't see them having an issue with Redford Thurston or Farmington. And then on the flip side, Livonia Franklin, Farmington Hills Mercy, I don't see the Marlins having an issue with the Patriots. I don't really see that one. So we're looking at a district final likely of being Livonia Stevenson and Farmington Hills Mercy. That should be a very good matchup. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes. But for Farmington, when I look at their chances in the districts, I don't know if I like them. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how that district looks. So we'll see how it goes. That we will see. Next, let's look at District 23. This will be over at Southfield Arts and Tech. We got Berkeley, who is the 5 seed, taking on Warren Fitzgerald, who's the 4 seed. That winner's going to play top seed Detroit Renaissance. Then you have the 6 seed Oak Park Knights taking on the 3 seed Southfield Arts and Tech. That winner taking on Detroit Mumford. Of course, this district will be at A&T. So A&T is going to have home court here. But you look at this district inside out, you have to give an edge to Detroit Renaissance because of who they got and what Coach Deshaun Wood has done. He's done a great job over there. I mean, they won the Detroit Public School League Championship. But something always tells me with Renaissance, is there a team in this district, could they upset Detroit Renaissance? Could they even touch him? I remember a couple years ago under then coach Shandy Lawal when Detroit Renaissance got upset by Berkeley at their home floor. I will never forget that one. I think that was the 22 season where Berkeley went into Detroit and upset top seed Detroit Renaissance. Could it happen here again? I mean, I don't know if I see it because Berkeley's path is very difficult. Because you look at Berkeley this year, Berkeley's been very up and down. I mean, Coach Clay Shaver's team has been up and down. I thought this year that Berkeley would. I knew they lost a lot of talent from a year ago, but obviously when Nico Schulder's coming into the program, she's a difference maker. But the guards have been a big problem for Coach Shaver's team. And, you know, the NPR, sometimes it hasn't gone their way. So, you look at the ranking, you look at the NPR, Berkeley, you know, they were locked into the 5 seed anyway. So, now, you're going to play Warren Fitzgerald, a team that's played a tough schedule. I think they're in the MAC Red for girls. Fitzgerald's had a nice year. I mean, they've had a good season. I mean, they were in a battle with A&T for the 3 seed. So A&T ended up getting the 3 seed in that district. But Fitzgerald now is in a very tough spot because now you're playing a tough Berkeley team in the first round. And now you're likely, whoever wins that game is going to have to play Detroit Renaissance in the district semifinals. And then, you know, that's a difficult matchup in its own right. So that's going to be a very, very difficult task for whoever's got to play Detroit Renaissance, either the Bears or the Spartans. That's going to be very, very tough. Then you have Oak Park and Southfield Arts and Tech. With that winner taking on Detroit Mumford. Now, A&T should be favored against Oak Park. Oak Park's been competitive. They've been competitive. But they've had some games where they've had some tough losses in the gold this year. A&T's been an up and down team in the blue this year. But I like A&T to get to the district final for some reason. And I think a lot of that's because of A&T's athleticism. The problem with A&T is there's been games where they just have not looked very good. They just haven't. I watched their game against Troy Athens, where Athens, I mean, they hung with them for about a quarter and a half, and then Troy Athens just pulled away. They just pulled away. So now, why am I saying I like them against a team like Detroit Mumford? Detroit Mumford's got a very good guard. They're well coached. They have a legendary coach over there. And they have a legendary coach. I just think that being at a big court could pose problems for the Mustangs. I mean, yes, they played some games at Renaissance. They played some games there during the season. They played some games on bigger gyms. But I just think that being in a big gym like A&T could pose a problem for a team like Detroit Mumford, who's been used to playing games on smaller gyms. But you never know. Could we see an All-Detroit Public School League district final? It's possible. Could A&T make a run at this? Possible. But when I look at this district, and you look at this district inside out, there's really nobody here that could touch Detroit Renaissance. Now, I'd be shocked if somebody gave them a game. But I just think Detroit Renaissance's style, a play, which is the run and gun, fast-paced style that a lot of teams have problems with, could pose a problem for the teams in this district. It very well could. So if anybody could do that, it could be possible. But I don't know. I don't know if I see it. So that's going to be the key, I think, is going to be is can anybody in this district touch Detroit Renaissance? That is the big time question. Can anyone touch him? We'll find out. We will truly find out. District 24, this will be at Bloomfield Hills. This is an almost all OAA district with the exception of Birmingham Marians in here. You got the 5 seed Seaholm Maples taking on the 4 seed North Farmington Raiders. That winner is going to take on top seed Groves, who's had an incredible year this year. Then you have Birmingham Marion, who's the 3 seed, taking on the 2nd seeded Bloomfield Hills Blackhawks. So you think about this with Groves. They went off to a torrid start. They were putting over 80, 90, 100 points on people. But you think about, with this team, Coach Jessica Douglas done a really nice job with this team. As I said, Harlem Simpson should be Miss Basketball. I think she should be. I've said that many times. I just don't understand why that the sports writers give the award to only seniors. They should consider juniors. Harlem Simpson fits the bill. Harlem Simpson, if I were the sports writer, and if I had to write a ballot, if they ever asked me to write a ballot, the first person I'd be thinking of for Miss Basketball in the state of Michigan is Harlem Simpson. That's the first one I think of. Now, people say, you got Eliana Roback, who's a possibility, but I just think Harlem Simpson's game, with the program she's got, I think Harlem Simpson is I view her as a complete player. She is a complete player. Is there things she can work on? Absolutely. But I think Harlem Simpson is a complete player. I would say if I had to do my top 3 right now for Miss Basketball, I would say Simpson, Sheridan Beal West Bloomfield, and then Eliana Roback Clarkson. That's how I would order it right now. That's what I would say right now. You think about the job that Douglas done. And of course, Simpson has really blossomed under her system. She has really blossomed. Groves has a great opportunity to win their first district championship since 2022. And they have a golden opportunity ahead of them to do it. Now, Bloomfield Hills could have a say about this. Because you look at Bloomfield Hills, they've been one of my biggest surprises all season long. Bloomfield Hills, this year I had some concerns with Coach Ronaldo Brown's team. I had some concerns coming into the year with that team. But you know what they've done? They've won games. They've been efficient. The freshmen have stepped up. They played well. And Brianna Burns has been a very good leader. So that says a lot with Bloomfield Hills. You look at Bloomfield Hills, they're more than capable of taking that next step. Now, obviously, you look at Coach of the Year in the white division. Obviously, that's going to probably go to Dublin. But I think Brown's got a great chance to win Coach of the Year in the white. I think he's got a great chance. Especially when you look at the expectations coming in the year. You look at Blue Bay Hills. I mean, I had them projected to finish last this year because they lost a lot of talent. This talent has really excelled. I mean, they've made some noise. I mean, they have beaten some people. They've won games. So I think Ronaldo Brown's got a great case to be Coach of the Year considering where they were supposed to be. Douglas' case, they were expected to be good. But in Blooming Hills' case, they were not expected to be good. But they have really went up in the standings, and they have, look where they're at right now. So, honestly, I'm curious to see that white Coach of the Year race. Whoever wins that award. Because you got two quality candidates there in Dubla and also Ronaldo Brown. Now that being said, for Blooming Hills' case, they got Birmingham Marion. And that's an interesting matchup because normally Birmingham Marion's pretty good. You remember the days of Mary Cicerone there, the legendary coach at Birmingham Marion. This year has been a rough year for Birmingham Marion. It's been a really rough year. They've struggled with the new coaching staff, going through a transition period, which has to happen during the year. They've really struggled. So I will be curious to see how, but the win that they got and the schedule they play in the Catholic League is the reason why they are the 3 seed. That's the reason why. So now you look at that matchup. You have to give it to Blue Bay Hills. You have to give the edge to Blue Bay Hills in that matchup. And they have home court, which always helps. And then you have the playing game. You have the first round game between Seaholm and North Farmington. Seaholm is an interesting team. They survived Avondale in overtime by 1 point. Avondale is a team I'm really, really high on in this district. They could make some serious noise. North Farmington has had a really nice year. They have had a good year. The Raiders are a team that, this year, you could say they took an advantage of being down the gold, but they have some veteran presence there over there. They have a veteran presence there. Coach Michael Allen's done a really nice job with that program. And the only reason why they're at the 4th seed is because their NPR was very low. Seaholm been struggling. I think that the 1 point win against Avondale was a huge confidence boost for them. Now, they're going to have to see Avondale again, which I think that's going to be a tough matchup. But you think about it, Seaholm's played Groves twice. Groves has handled them twice. Haven't played North Farmington. North Farmington, honestly, they just don't match up well with Groves at all. I'm just being honest with you. They just do not. They don't match up well with Simpson. They don't match up well with J.C. Roy. They don't match up well with Mallory Killian. They just don't match up. It wouldn't surprise me if those 3 girls have big games, if they do play North Farmington. But as I mentioned here in this district, I think at the end of the day, I see Groves winning this district for the first time since 2022. Because of Simpson, because of Roy, and because of Killian. I think those 3 girls are going to make a big difference for Groves in this district. Blue Bay Hills can have a say in this, but I just think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be too much Blackhawks. Too much Falcons over the Blackhawks. I think Blue Hills will knock off Birmingham Marion. I'd be really shocked if Blue Hills went down to Birmingham Marion. I'd be really shocked because considering, yes, it's going to be a great test for the Blackhawks freshmen because this is the first time that they've experienced this type of atmosphere. So that's something to really watch for. Groves, they've been here before. They had that first round loss last year, but it's a different team, different program now, different style. So we'll see what happens. I think Groves' style is going to be key here in this district. I think it's going to be the style is going to be key. We'll see how that one goes. District 25, this will be at White Lake, Lakeland. We have the 5 seed Wall Lake Central Vikings taking on the 4 seed Wall Lake Northern Knights. That winner's taking on Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And then we have, in the district semifinals, the 3rd seed White Lake Lakeland Eagles, who have home court in this district. They will take on the 2nd seeded West Bloomfield Lakers. So you think about this storyline. Are we staring at a rematch between Orchard Lake St. Mary's and West Bloomfield? We could be. We could be. People have asked me about Ms. Basketball. Obviously, I've said Harlem Simpson from Groves is, if she's not Ms. Basketball this year, she's going to be Ms. Basketball next year. If we had to do this by senior, I would say Sheridan Beal would be my choice for Ms. Basketball in the state of Michigan. She is that talented. She is that good. Her game is so pure. I don't know where Beal's going for college, but whoever gets her is going to get a great talent and also a great person. Sheridan Beal fits that bill perfectly. You look at West Bloomfield. People have said, well, this is not the same Laker team as in years past. Well, let me tell you something right now about West Bloomfield program strength. Their JV team this year is very good. Their JV team is very good. They're going to be fine. Now, next year, they're not going to have that true dynamic scorer like Beal is. But they're still West Bloomfield. This is still, they got a great coach in Darren McAllister. We know what he's more than capable of. They also got a state championship pedigree on there. Forgot to mention that. They've been there. Been there, done that. That's West Bloomfield for you. Now, could they be on upset alert? Absolutely. Because they got to play Lakeland. Lakeland, they have home court. They got a very dynamic player. They're a good team. Lakeland's a very good team. They could give West Bloomfield problems. They very much could give them problems. So this could be an interesting scenario here. This could be an interesting district semifinal game because West Bloomfield, they've been through hostile environments. They won in hostile environments. They're still in the conversation for the Red Crown with Clarkston and Stony Creek. I'm going to talk Stony Creek in a little bit here, but also Clarkston as well. But they're still in that race for the division title. Now you look at the other side, you have Wall Lake Central, Wall Lake Northern. Northern should win this game. Wall Lake Central's really struggled this year in the Lakes Valley Conference. They have really struggled. But that winner is going to see Orchard Lake St. Mary's. You look at Orchard Lake St. Mary's. They've been on a mission. They got 3 losses. All the state powerhouses. Goodrich, Saginaw Heritage and Jackson Lumen Christie. That's not easy. That is not easy. And the Lumen Christie game, that was in the Catholic League Championship game. So they got experience. They've learned. They've been tested. I know Brad Creighton extremely well. One of the best minds in the game. He knows how to win. He knows how to win. No matter if it's the boys' game or the girls' game. He just knows how to win. He's a great guy, too. When you get to meet the guy, you'll have a great, pleasant conversation. He is a great guy to have a conversation with. It's going to be interesting to see. Are we staring at Orchard Lake St. Mary's West Bloomfield District Final? It's possible. Could be very likely. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that would be an interesting district matchup. Really interesting one. Next, let's go to District 29. This will be over at Warren Mott. The 5 seed, Warren Mott Marauders, take on the 4 seed, Warren Cousino Patriots. That winner's taking on Troy Athens. Then you have the 3 seed, Royal Oak Ravens, taking on the 2 seed, Troy Colts. That's a district semifinal matchup. Here's the thing. I have been so impressed with Coach J.C. Clump's team at Troy Athens. The Red Hawks have been playing very well, very competitive, and to me, this team deserves the top seed in the district. Stacy Clump has done a magnificent job. You look at the Coach of the Year candidacy in the blue. I think it's either going to be Stacy Clump or Coach Justin Howard at Adams. Because you look at the job that Howard's done at Adams, he's turned that program around. And you look at the job that Clump's done at Athens, she's done a magnificent job. Clump's built program strength. They have 3 programs. I mean, there's a lot to like at Troy Athens. There is a lot to like with this program. You look at the first round match at the Battle of Warren between the Warren Mott Marauders and the Warren Cousino Patriots. These 2 teams have seen each other before. Warren Cousino has a new coach and former Ferndale University coach, Benny Sukowski. He's done a solid job with that program. He's done a solid job. I mean, they're coming off a 49-35 win against Warren Mott. So now, what that sets up in the first round is basically it's a rematch, except Warren Cousino's wearing white, but Warren Mott gets to at least sit on their home bench. So much for that. But then that winner is going to take on Troy Athens. And we know how good that Coach J.C. Clump has with the Red Hawks. I mean, obviously, you have Katrina Tashich, who's a very good point guard. You have Kate Malone, who's been very good for Troy Athens. They've got others who are solid as well. I mean, there's a lot to like with Troy Athens. There is a lot to like with this team. And I mean a lot to like. And then you look at the other side of the matchup. You have Royal Oak taking on Troy. Troy's had an on and off year. Up and down year. But I think this is the worst matchup they can get. And the reason why, it's Royal Oak. Royal Oak, you think of them, defense, defense, defense. Brian Zapata is well known for the defense. Yes, Royal Oaks had a very rough year. But still, the system. It's the system. You look at where Royal Oak was at a month ago. They were the 5 seed. They didn't get any love from the MPR. They didn't get any sort of respect from the MPR. And for them to get up to the 3 seed to avoid having to play on that Monday says a lot. You got to give Zapata credit. You got to give the players at Royal Oak credit. You got to give them credit. They competed. They've been tested. And you look at Troy. Yes, Troy has struggled recently, but you still have Macy Zeider. You still have Olivia Sprangler. You still have Carly Higginbottom on that roster. And you have a coach in Laura Guzman who's done a really nice job with that program. So you think about it with Troy, last year was about expectations. There's still expectations this year with the Colts. So it's going to be interesting to see how Guzman prepares for Zapata. It's going to be interesting. Athens is clearly the favorite in this district. Troy can have a say, but Troy has to be on upset alert. They have to be on upset alert because you think about it. Bottom line, Royal Oak can beat them. Who knows if who knows? They could have a big game. Who knows? That's not easy. They could go in there and upset them. Who knows? We'll see what happens there. District 26, this will be at Oxford, at Ian Smith. You got the 5 seed Holly Bronchos taking on the 4 seed Lapeer Lightning. That winner's taking on top seed Davison, the Cardinals. And then you have in the district semifinals, you got the Grand Blanc Bobcats, who's a 3 seed. They are taking on the 2nd seeded Oxford Wildcats. I'm telling you, when I look at this district, Holly and Lapeer, I think this is the mismatch on paper, I think. I got to give Lapeer the edge. They got a lot of seniors on that roster over there. Lapeer, I think, has been battle tested in the Saginaw Valley. Holly's been struggling. They've been competitive, but I just don't know if they match up with Lapeer. That winner's taking on Davison. Davison, obviously, with Savannah Rice. They got a freshman guard who's been up and down this year. Davison they're an interesting team. How they got the number 1 seed was obviously Oxford. Oxford's played a tough schedule, so don't get me wrong. They have played a very tough schedule. So now Oxford's got to play Grand Blanc, and that's a dangerous matchup for Oxford because Grand Blanc, they're down this year. But it's still Grand Blanc. They have a new coach. They got a new system. But this is still Grand Blanc. It's a tough matchup. It's a difficult matchup. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes. So it's going to be interesting because Oxford and Grand Blanc, that could be an interesting game. Oxford obviously relies a lot on Caitlin Brockway and Mia Champagne. If you shut both of them down, particularly Brockway, you're going to shut Oxford down. That's how you beat Oxford. Because especially Brockway, she's the one that you really got to pay attention to. That's the key if you want to beat Oxford. Grand Blanc, they're down this year, but they're still Grand Blanc. So that's going to be something to really watch for. The key in that game for Oxford is going to be can you get third scoring? Can a Jalen Jacobson step up? Can they get contributions from a Sarah Kopech? There are pieces for Coach Trevor Marshall. But that's the big question. They need a third scorer. That's going to be key. Next, let's look at district number 27. This will be over at Lake Orion. We got the 5 seed Avondale Yellow Jackets taking on the 4 seed Waterford United. That winner is going to take on the top seed Clarkston Wolves in the district semifinals. And the other side, you got the 3rd seed Rochester Adams Highlanders taking on the 2nd seeded Lake Orion Dragons. So, we're going to start with the top of the bracket. Avondale is better than what their record says. Their record says 2-17. But you bring in a player like Jordan Ratliff, who can play from Orchard Lake St. Mary's, who can play right away, and you pair her up with Sasha McClellan, and they have this freshman point, and they have this freshman guard as well. I'm telling you, Avondale, the last 3 games, their points per game has really risen. It's allowed McClellan to be herself. Ratliff's been playing a lot, and then, and obviously, you look at this Avondale team and say, okay, we might have something here. We're gonna outscore you. They had a nice impressive win the other night, and then they had a tough overtime loss against Harper Woods. They put up 62 on Harper Woods, that's a confidence boost for Coach Roy Chrisman. You lose by 1 in overtime to Seaholm. So you're right there. You're already better now than you were a month ago. Especially with Ratliff there. Now you look at Waterford. Waterford, they're on the verge of sharing the gold title with North Farmington. But obviously, Waterford, with them, it starts and ends with Savannah Satorce. That's where it starts and ends with. So that'll be an interesting matchup. Then that winner's going to take on top seed Clarkston. You look at Clarkston, and yeah, they played a tough schedule, don't get me wrong. They're still in that conversation for the Red. You have a player in Eliana Rollback who put up 43 points. Now, people say to me, like, why don't you consider Eliana Rollback as a Ms. Basketball candidate? I mean, here's the thing. I look at how teams are constructed. You look at with Simpson, obviously with Casey Roy and Mallory Killing. Killing's only a freshman with growth. You look at West Bloomfield, Sheridan Beal there. She's been there all 4 years. She's got some nice pieces over there, but there's been games where she's had to carry the Lakers on her back. And then you look at Clarkston, and you say, okay, you got Brooklyn Colbert's there, Ava Wasilik's there. Those two can pick up Rollback if Rollback has a terrible game. You have Bella Flavin there, who can also pick up Rollback if she has a terrible game. So you kind of look at how I look at it is talent. I also look at another part of it, but you look at, of course, the team surrounding the player. You look at, it's sort of like with the Detroit Pistons. You look at what the Pistons are doing this year. Kate Cunningham basically carrying the load for the Pistons. But they got others who've stepped up, who've contributed. Clarkson has that. But with Rollback, it's just, I've got some concerns with Rollback. I do. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. Then, on the other side, you got a rematch of a 55-51 game that Lake Orion won over Rochester Adams. Now, with Adams, obviously, it's Faith Zolas and Jordan Jarrell. Those are the two that Adams relies on. For Lake Orion, I look at this team and there's I don't know if I can do a compare contrast, but they do remind me a little bit of the 2012 boys basketball team at Lake Orion. I remember that team had some internal issues, and then they just put everything aside, won a district title, upset a 20-1 Rochester team in the district final, went on to win a regional, and got to state quarters. This team's got some similarities, except this is still a very young basketball team. When you look at the players that Coach Bob Bridges has, Kelsey King, this is going to be a test for Kelsey King. This is a bigger test, I think, for Kara Veter. Because with Veter, everybody's paying attention to you now. You look at Lake Orion, last few years you've had Izzy Walensky and Charlotte Poposky. Now, you don't have them anymore. But you look at this road, the key for Coach Bob Bridges is going to be can this group get hot at the right time? Because, it's been a rough year for this team. It's been a rough year for Lake Orion. Really rough year. But you look into their defense, they played the third toughest schedule in the state, which is absolutely insane. You look at the opponent's win percentage they played, it's near 700. So that kind of tells you something right there. Lake Orion's played a brutal schedule. You can say the same thing with Avondale. Avondale's playing a brutal schedule themselves. Look at their OP, look at their opponent's win percentage. Lake Orion's near 700, and Avondale's not that far behind. So, this could be a very interesting game. Adams will be motivated after that game, where obviously they felt they were robbed. Obviously with the calls that went against them in that game. It should be a fun district. I think it'll be a fun game. I think it'll be a fun district semi between the Highlanders and Dragons. But I think you look at it here in this district, Clarkson's the team to beat, obviously, because you have Rollback, you have Colbert, you have Smith, you have Wasilic, you have Flavin. Clarkson's got multiple weapons. They got experience. They only got one senior on that team. That's Rollback. So Clarkson right now has to be the favorite in this district. But Avondale, they could give them problems. I think if it's Avondale, I'm telling you, they can give Clarkson some problems. I really do. So Avondale is a team I'm very watching carefully because that is not your vintage 5 seed. And that is an honest opinion. Avondale is not your vintage 5 seed. And then our last district here, District 28 at Utica Eisenhower, we have the 5 seed Utica Chieftains taking on the 4 seed Rochester Falcons. That winner's going to take on top seeded and host the Eagles of Utica Eisenhower. Then you have the Bulldogs of Romeo. That's the 3 seed taking on the 2 seed Stony Creek Cougars. So this one's going to be interesting because a couple weeks ago, I would say Utica Eisenhower would be a slight favorite over Stony Creek. And then I watched Friday. And yeah. So you think about with Eisenhower. They have not lost since the calendar turned 2026. They have not lost. So you think about that scenario. Ike is on a roll. You have the Turner twins. You have multiple weapons. It's going to be a tall order. You kind of think about looking at that Utica-Rochester game, you kind of think Rochester's going to win that game. So imagine a semi between Rochester and Utica Eisenhower. Rochester can defend, but it's going to be a tough sell. Ike at home court. Experience. They know the Rins well. It's going to be a tall order for Rochester if they get to the district semifinals. Then we look at Romeo and Stony Creek. Stony Creek right now is in a storm. They are in a storm. Everything going around them. Coming off a tough one to Rochester. You have to keep in control. You're in a storm. You have to stay disciplined. You have to stay in control mentally. Your goals are still in front of you. You just have to control what you control. That's really what, if I had to say to the Cougars right now. But it's clear as day that Stony Creek needs Samantha Fulkerson back. And fast. Because you look at the games they lost. South Lyon East, Fulkerson didn't play. Rochester, Fulkerson didn't play. The bottom line is, you look at this Stony Creek team, this team is gels so much better when Fulkerson's out there. You know, you put Fulkerson there with Jalen Freeman and the Rochesters, which is Callista, Izzy, and Abigail. They gel pretty well. So Stony Creek right now is in a storm. Goals are still in front of you. You got to play West Bloomfield. You got to play Romeo. You got to play Macomb, Dakota. And now you get to see Romeo in the district semifinals. So Stony Creek's girls, they have a choice here. Do they let the loss to Rochester affect them so much that they lose focus and get beat by Romeo? Or do they move on from the loss, focus on West Bloomfield, give them a battle? You've already beat them once this year at your place. Go down there, win a game. You know, win at least a share of the red. Then you can beat Macomb. Then you can play. You have a winnable game against Macomb, Dakota, and then all your goals, hopes, and dreams are still in front of you. That's the choice Stony Creek has to make. Is, do they let the loss to Rochester affect them? Or do they say, you know what, move on from Rochester. We still have our hopes and dreams in front of us. I mean, we can win this district. We still have a mission here. We remember what happened last year. We remember what happened when we played Ike. When we got screwed over at Stony Creek. When we lost by 3. We remember that. That's the motivator for Stony Creek. Especially against Utica Eisenhower. But the key for Stony Creek, you have to stay disciplined. And you can't lose it mentally. You just can't. It's how you overcome adversity. How do you overcome it? That's the choice that Stony Creek has to make. That's the choice that the Cougars have to make. Because they have the talent to win this district. You have the players to win this district. Only concern I have with Stony Creek is their depth. They're not a deep bench. They have to stay in control. I look at the song In the Eye of the Storm by Ryan Stevens. That is a perfect song to describe the Cougars. That is the perfect song to describe Stony Creek girls basketball right now. They're in a storm. They're in the eye of the storm. It's how you respond. It's how you respond if you're Stony Creek. Everybody, I'm going to sign off here. Make sure you follow the blog at stagnumber4650 at blogspot.com for the latest information around the OAA. Of course, we're going to keep an eye on both districts this week for both boys basketball this week, and also we got girls starting next week. Hey, we got some breaking news here around the OAA here on the podcast here. Stony Creek coach Columbus Williams and three of his and 3/4 of his staff were let go on Monday afternoon. Of course, it is on the Oakland Press. Brian Emerson reported it, confirmed it. So you really think about it. I mean, everything stemmed from the game on Friday against Rochester to where, but I'm not going to say much about it. If you want to watch the game, it's on the Rochester High School huddle page. So if you want to get your opinion about it, I would encourage OA Nation to watch that Rochester Stony Creek game. You really look at it, and this came out of the blue. I mean, you watch the game, and and there's just no words to describe what happened. But it's shocking right now that Williams, 3/4 of his staff, no longer there. Stony Creek athletic director and former North Farmington boys basketball assistant coach, and former North Farmington head basketball coach Todd Negoshin is the interim coach. Also, Joey Taco and Zoran Avaj were both retained as well, according to the story by Emerson. Right now, you look at what Stony Creek right now. This is a team that sits at 16-4 right now, still in control of their own destiny in the red. They got a big game with West Bluefield on Tuesday night. So if they win that game, they'll clinch at least a share of the red championship. If they don't, then they lose their chance at the division title. So their hopes and goals of a division title are still in play. So now you look at the district scenario. Stony Creek right now is the number 2 seed. As mentioned on the podcast, they will play Romeo in the district semifinals on Wednesday. So that is going to be a very interesting game. I mean, as I mentioned, so it's going to be interesting to see how Stony Creek responds. As I mentioned, they're in the eye of a storm. You know what I mean? And they've got 2 choices. I mean, they really got 2 choices. And either they full tent, let that game against Rochester affect them, or do they or they can move on from the game, and then focus on the rest of their season. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Stony Creek in wake of what happened. Could this be a rallying point? It's possible, but right now, they're just going through the shock right now, and and I'll be curious to see how the girls respond to with Negoshin as their interim coach, and to see where they go forward. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in wake of this, and we're gonna see what happens going forward. So right now, big news of the day for Stony Creek. Big changes coming for the girls basketball program. Of course, have made a change, and you want to look at, if you want more information on it, you can take a look at the blog at secondway46video.blogspot.com. Also, the Oakland Press story by Brian Emerson. He does a really good job describing it. All right, everybody, we're signing off here, and take care, and God bless, and I'll see y'all on Monday. God bless. God bless.